Hey friends, welcome to Folk Friday. We are going to be talking with Alyssa from With White Space Co. today. I'm going to wait for her to pop on and oil up. These always make me a little nervous. How are you all doing today? Where are you joining from? I'd love to know. Type in the comments where you're joining from. Yay, there you are, Alyssa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Welcome.
We're in good shape.
Yeah. I'm gonna put my blue blocking glasses on. You reminded me. Oh, I feel like sometimes my eyes go bonkers when I'm on the computer and phone all the time. But,
Yes. Oh, and how cute
yeah.
are those?
Oh, Amazon.
Oh, I'm so happy to
Welcome.
be here.
Yes, I am so excited that you are joining us today and to talk all things space, right? And I loved talking with you. What was that last week? 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And just all of these things. And so, as people are joining, comment where you're from. And I'm excited to introduce Alyssa. She is from the feed with White Space Co. I would say White Space Co, but it's with White Space. I
Yep.
need to remember.
Yep.
And I came across you. I don't know how I came across you. I think when you were just beginning, and I was like, oh, I love what you are creating because I hear this all the time from women that they're so consumed with everything in life, with their jobs, with their family, with kids' activities, their activities, that there's really little time for them and they feel really stressed. But how do you weed out, things that aren't serving you and move into that space where you do have a little bit more space in your planner and how to leave white space? So I cannot wait for all the ladies and maybe even guys joining in because I think, maybe our men are, stressed for time too, but I think we're focusing on the ladies today. So, tell us a little bit about you and how you this came to be and how you evolved into this.
It's been a road looking back and just thinking about kind of the evolution of where I started, how I grew up, and how I got to be kind of where I am and kind of how I'm choosing to live my life. And we kind of ran through this before, but I am here in central Wisconsin, and I grew up on a farm from childhood on. So I feel like in some way that kind of set the foundation for my appreciation for being outside and kind of savoring those smaller moments that maybe some would say are more mundane, but kind of finding joy in those smaller moments. So that kind of set the foundation for my upbringing, my childhood, and that sort of thing. And from there, kind of fast forward a few years into my college years, I went on to pursue a degree I went in thinking I was going to go teaching, ended up pursuing my master's in speech pathology, which I loved and thought that was it. I thought that was the path that I was supposed to be on, chasing those goals, checking the boxes. What we hear so many women kind of falling into where they kind of jump in mainstream and that's where they think they're headed. So, and I should make a side note, but it's, pretty impactful, a note here that within all of my schooling there in grad school, 2014, I was diagnosed with lymphoma and ended up being diagnosed and declared cancer-free in the same year. So 2014, I had, the biggest scare of my life, which sets some pretty bold perspective moving forward on how you're choosing to live your life. So that's, highlighted right there with kind of where I'm at today. But ended up speech therapy, working as a speech therapist, having my first kiddo, and it was almost instantly where I was trying to figure out a way to phase out of that and figure out a way to be home with my little one. So from there, I started pursuing my secondary dream in kind of pursuing my creative side of photography. So really, really diving into that, and ended up going full-time with photography last year. But kind of where this all pivots and where with white space kind of comes into play is that moment where I was sitting at my desk, working as a speech therapist, knowing that something wasn't quite right. I was putting so much energy out and feeling left with kind of nothing at the end of the day, where I was just drained and depleted. And I remember talking with a coworker, I think it was over lunch, and I remember just saying out loud, "Oh, I just need more white space." And it was one of those moments where I kind of ran back after our conversation and scribbled that down and really held on to that. And something kind of transpired from that. I was like, something needs to happen with it. And I know so many other women are feeling this, and I'm hearing their stories, and just between friends and coworkers and just everyone feeling the burnout and pieces that aren't coming together. So I went full-time photography and kind of kept that white space dream on the back burner, but just letting that transpire and come to be. And over the last year, that's really evolved, and it's something that I just launched a couple months ago. So I am really diving into that now, kind of as my journey evolved, and now feels like the right time, especially given the state of the world, and kind of all of the madness and unknowns happening around us as we transition into, women homeschooling and COVID and restrictions and just so much noise out in the world right now. Just helping women kind of center in and carve out time for themselves. And that's really what white space is. And kind of playing off of that, not even necessarily just for themselves, but wherever they are needing fulfillment. So that might be carving out space to have a date night with your husband and really like center in on that relationship, or carving out an afternoon with your kiddos where you're just following their lead and filling them up too, so you can really establish, that connection again, and setting work aside and setting all your stressors aside and focusing in on that fulfillment. So that's been the evolution, and here we are.
Yeah, I love your story, because I feel like it resonates with so many women, touching those pain points of, following that path of going into a career, going into, college education or whatever education you sought after, thinking that this is going to be, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But as we evolve and we change, and, you're 18, 20, when you're deciding on that, and so much can change. What?
I said a bold commitment you make so early on.
Yeah. And you're still learning who you are and not what you want to be, but who you want to be. I think we put that pressure on our older children, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's who do you want to be when you grow up, and asking those questions. And, we go into that path thinking this is what we're going to be for the rest of our life. And sometimes it's hard to give ourselves grace and to allow ourselves to just follow a different path. And so I love that you gave yourself that grace, and you said, this isn't fulfilling me. This doesn't have a purpose. As much as I love it, I feel drained. And I love how you told me that it was it was mission back home. That was your mission.
Yeah.
How can I get back home? And even, it's okay if not every woman wants to stay home, right? It's even if you just, part-time, or it's, how can you leverage the time that you have to give yourself more of that empty space in your life?
Right.
I know like COVID, I was just reading a friend's post this morning and she said, let's look for the silver lining. And I was thinking about this the other day, as much as COVID, as much as we're missing things, and as much as COVID took so much away from our normal life, look at what it did give us. Just so much more freedom to be at home, and everything kind of just shut down and it was quiet for a while.
Yes.
But I don't know if you're feeling this, but I'm feeling kind of that pull back into the rat race again, the hustle, adding school onto, homeschooling onto something I've never done before. And maybe some of you are as well, ladies. And maybe you are too, Alyssa. But, how do you help women at this point? Like, what are you doing to guide women through finding that space and releasing things that don't necessarily serve us? How to say no, because that's hard. That's really hard. Because we wear so many hats.
Oh, I know. And the layers build so much faster than we seem to take things off of our plate. And we have a hard time, I feel like, as a collective group of women, letting things fall off of our plate. We feel like we need to let it build and just manage it all and do it well and do it beautifully, because that's what we see on social media and that's what we think we need to do. So I think so much of it, oh gosh, I could go on and on and on. But I tried to narrow it down to kind of 3 key components that I think really we can implement sooner rather than later. The number one thing, well, not number one, but first thing being trying to find systems and really working to craft margin. And obviously that's the goal. But there's a few ways, and this kind of just plays off of what we were just talking about, is allowing ourselves to say no. And that is like the most powerful word and the hardest word that we find ourselves having to say, is turning down things that don't suit us and our needs and get us closer to where we want to be. Obviously, there's things that we have to do to function. If doing dishes is awful to you, then you can't always say no to that. But you can try to finding joy in the things that you have to do. But the things that you can delegate out, do that. Whether that's asking us about the house, asking for childcare. I know, again, as women, we feel like they're our children. We need to house them and really nurture them all ourselves, but just releasing the reins and letting people help. Setting boundaries. That's another thing we talked about the other day. Whether that's boundaries on our time. Yes, I will help you, but for this period of time, and not letting our time slip away. So systems, boundaries, whether that's, again, systems in your home, and batch working your days from a business perspective, where Mondays I do this, Tuesdays I do this, and that applies to your home as well. So just really trying to get clear on how you want to manage your time. And I could go on and on about that too, but just trying to minimize the amount of multitasking we're doing throughout our day, where we just like hone in on the system that we are going to implement that day, whether that's finances on Friday, and we're doing all our bill paying and all of our invoicing if you're in a business world, or all of those things, but really just getting clear on how we want to delegate our time each day, what we're going to say no to, what we want to say yes to, and getting clear on our time is, I would say, number 1. And number 2 is staying present within that and trying not to let the world pull us around like it tends to do. I actually just wrote an Instagram post about our phones alone and how we let those pings and those notifications just pull us out of whatever task we're involved in right now, and not just honing in on what our intention was for that day. We just get sucked out of these tasks so quickly, and it takes us so much longer to like zone back in on what we were trying to accomplish. So staying present in the task that we're set out to do, whether that's a work task or whether that's the Play-Doh your toddler just asked you to play with, and not be distracted by the laundry buzzer that just went off. Just little things like that, and just like hunkering down and staying true to what you want to accomplish. I think that is huge, and that's something that we struggle with too, because we're always pulled. We're always pulled. So systems and margin, and staying present in the moment, and not letting your to-do list overwhelm you and stress you out. Figure out what you need to be doing now and focus on getting that done. And the last piece is just giving yourself grace and gratitude, or giving yourself grace along the way, because it's hard and it's tricky, and there's so many moments of overwhelm along the way. If we look at that bigger picture, we want to kind of shut down and let that overwhelm take over, but just kind of bringing it back to where you are right now and finding gratitude in those moments, I think is huge.
Yeah, I think you touched on 3 key areas, and so vital. I know there's so many free spirits that are like, oh, schedule,
I know,
and that's hard. I mean, as with different personalities, but trying to have some kind of schedule, or at least I know for me, just a focus board. I'll get a piece of paper and I put focus on it. I know the things that exactly need to get done, and then breaking those up into small tasks throughout the week, so it doesn't look so overwhelming. What are the 3 main things I need to get done today in my home, in my business, knock them out, then be present, in those moments, but then with your children. I feel like we can be like Pavlov's dogs with all those bells and dingers going off all the time, and we just run to them. And we have to retrain that brain pathway to be like, nope, it can wait. It can wait, and even if we have to.
It's been such an evolution as social media and all of these things have just infused into our world that you don't even realize how much you let that control you until you take a step back and say, that notification wasn't important. I didn't need to read that email right now. That can wait. That can wait. That can wait. And just blinders.
Yes, I would say that blinders on, be like a horse, and put those blinders on. Don't get distracted. And it's so funny because even though we say these things, it just takes time to retrain. And we go to the cabin for a weekend, with our friends. We go to a friend's cabin, and there's no cell phone reception up there. And it's so blissful, so peaceful, but it takes me an entire day to get out of that, feeling that I need to check my phone. I need to, get back to someone. But by the end of the weekend, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I lived life. I can breathe again. I was present and in the moment, nothing pulling me. And then, you get back into civilization and you check all your notifications, and there's really nothing that is super important. Everything can wait. Everything on Facebook and Instagram is all still the same, and it's like, really, why do I need this every single day in my life?
And there's so
much.
Sometimes
it's just deleting those notifications or deleting the apps if you need to.
Yeah. And setting in one of the tips I gave today was not being afraid to turn on the do not disturb setting on your phone, and just literally shutting it out. Because if it's pulling at us, then we have the temptation to check it. But if we don't know it's there, then it's easier to shut it out. Hey.
You're in the schoolroom. I'm doing homeschool. We just started this week.
Real life.
And so it's I give them an activity, but they still kind of hey, what are you doing? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but that's our life. I'm home and we work together, we school together, and that's how it is. So, but yeah, shutting all those things out, especially if you are a homeschool mama, or if you are, just trying to be present and cook dinner and have conversation. Even my kids, I find them pulling and just wanting to check the weather app, just to be on the phone, or oh, did Grandma and Grandpa send us a message, because they're out across, the state or across the country, and did they send us a message? So their brains are being trained to constantly go for that device too.
Yes.
And so helping my girls to retrain that pathway is important. And for us, all of us mamas. So,
and it's hard. And I feel like the biggest thing is practice, and it's grace when you slip out of it and fall into that, digital trap again. But just say, okay, tomorrow I'm turning it off and I'm going to drink coffee and be present as my little one's coloring next to me, and just giving yourself grace and letting yourself keep working towards it. It's a work in progress, 100%.
absolutely. And it is. And you are doing this, you're helping women. You have a workshop coming up August 17th. So that's Monday, right?
Monday.
Yeah.
We're kicking it off.
Yeah. So how do people become a part of that then?
Yeah. You can head to the link in my bio, so with White Space Co. And all you have to do is sign up, and I will email you all the information. Super easy to sign up. Essentially what this is going to be is a 5-day virtual event where I am walking you through it's actually the White Space workbook that I created, where we are looking at your dream day, your dream schedule, where your priorities are within that versus where you are at now, and, sitting in overwhelm, and we're bridging the gap and helping you get closer to that life, those days, that schedule filled with margin and white space. And we're going to work closer to getting you there. That's next week. And each day we're going to do a little daily journaling just to dig a little deeper into what you're needing and kind of where those gaps are and where you're craving margin. That's next week. Yes. So you can sign up at the link in my bio, and I will email you right over that workbook, and we kick things off next week in my Facebook group. So it's gonna feel like a tight-knit community where we're really building each other up and supporting each other in this journey to white space that we all so desperately crave.
Yeah, and it is possible. And I get comments like, it's wonderful that you can homeschool, that you can do that. And it was a choice. Everything we do in life is a choice. And like you said, like you made the choice to move from the traditional career that you were in, and you moved towards your dream of being home with your daughter and photography, and now creating this space for women. It's a choice. And is it easy? No. Is it going to take sacrifice? Is it maybe going to be a financial burden at first? Are you going to have to think outside the box? Absolutely. Sorry, my daughter's just flushing the toilet. Close the door, please. Hey, real life, right?
Yeah.
So, yes. So it's just going to be like, everyone has a choice. And so you can say, yes, that's great that you can do that. Or you can open your hands with gratitude, look for opportunity, because it's all around us. And so if you are craving that, anyone that's watching, if you're craving that white space, or if you're craving a different lifestyle or moving towards something like a dream that you have, I just encourage you to join Alyssa for this workshop and think of possibilities, look at opportunities, come with fresh eyes at the life you want to live, the one that's you're dreaming of, because it is possible. It is possible.
And I think even playing, sorry, I'm just thinking, like, even playing off of that, so much of it is, and even as you're working towards that bigger dream, finding that joy along the way and not being so stuck on that bigger dream that you're feeling so burdened and overwhelmed in the now, and really just finding those slivers of joy and beauty along the way. So you're finding, happiness at every stage and every level, not just when you've made it. I think when you think you've made it, because there's always a struggle to work through.
Yeah, and you never make it. There's always like something else that you're striving towards to better yourself. Because if you stop dreaming, you stop living, right? And so obviously we're going to be continuing to push for something. And I don't know about everyone else, but I want things yesterday. Yeah. And so and I'm like, I get frustrated and discouraged if I didn't get it in the time that I wanted it, but that's where we have to have those moments of looking for the joy and the gratitude.
Absolutely.
and those baby steps. So yeah. And you have a physical planner coming out, is that correct?
Yes, launching in September. It's off to printing right now. It's in the works. So that is a physical, tangible daily planner that's coming your way, our way, almost as an accountability partner, where each day, you know, it has your to-dos, it has, you know, your classic daily planner layout, but there is a large, beautiful section of that day that is dedicated to white space. So I want you to be thinking about the space you're carving out for those fulfilling moments before the day unfolds. So you make sure to carve out time for some of those intentional, meaningful moments before that inbox fills and before your to-do list gets out of control. So you, again, find that joy and margin that you crave.
Yeah. And physical planners, and we were talking about this, but for me, I have to have a physical planner. You said you as well, because when we keep it on our phone, then again, we're more distracted when we go to our phone to see what, you know, what the day entails. And then it's like, oh, why did I get on Facebook again? You know, like, what was I doing? And again, we lose that time then that is so valuable, that could give us that extra hour in the day for white space, but instead we went to the phone, right?
Exactly.
And then, yeah. So creating the life you want is setting those boundaries, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's how you can do it with a physical planner. You know, like just being able to write it down and go to that and not get distracted by everything else.
And I think I was mentioning to you how I envision women just like grabbing their planner in the morning, sitting down with their cup of coffee and using that, even that is like a moment of quiet time before the day begins, to pencil that in before the noise. And, you know, you can even use that section as a little journaling section to really get clear and dig a little deeper and center in before the crazy and the buzz of the world kicks in. So super excited to have that in my hands as well as everyone else's. So
yeah. Well, I'm super excited to check it out too. And so I just thank you so much for being on here today and sharing your journey and inspiring other women, because we really just want to bring peace. We want to bring you ladies peace. We want to bring just a sense of hope too, that this is possible. And I know we didn't touch on it because it's another broad topic, but you know, this will help you reduce that stress in your life too, and bring balance into your body and help you heal, you know, from even physical things that are happening. And so it is such a larger component than just, you know, making that space for yourself. It's actually bringing healing and making space inside yourself too for healing. So go ahead and connect with Alyssa. Go friend her on or like her page on Instagram. Like, friend, follow, all these things. Now it's Reels.
Yes, find me.
But
just find me somewhere.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, with White Space Co, you can find her, and I'll have all the information here. I'll have this video saved, and when you go to her feed, it's just so peaceful. Like, I know when I see your picture pop up, I'm like I just feel peace when I see your photography and look at your feed. So you always have inspiring work. So you have an amazing weekend, friend.
Yes,
thank you all for joining.
Me. It was so good to connect and see your face, and what
I know, face to face
weekend. Yes.
Awesome. Well, you have a really good weekend, and thank you so much for joining.
Wonderful. See you later.
Bye. Bye.